Great, we're gonna start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Flag is up there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we are missing Mike tonight. Any agenda adjustments? Nope. Okay. Public comments. We have some public. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate seeing people here. Anybody want to say anything to start?
Just say at one point, looking at this, the increase from this year to last year, I know there's a lot of reasons, but it pretty much equates to a full mil increase in the tax rate.
Okay. We haven't had a chance to look at it or anything, but thank you for pointing it out.
I just want to put that in perspective before you start. There's
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to comment? No? Okay. So Adam has a Cal presentation for us.
So I created this little Google site to kind of gather some information about the Cal program that is housed here at Noblesboro Central School. So going around to some of the schools to talk about the program and just kind of give like a broad view of what happens in Cal, like where it's been and where it might be going. So this photo right here to kind of start us off is students last year were at the apprentice shop in Rockland. That is the toboggan that they created with the instructors there. That was raced at the Toboggan Nationals. So which was a pretty cool experience. But that's kind of like an anchor project of what they did last year and kind of a brief idea of some of the things that they're doing. So the mission of Cal vision is to provide a dynamic alternative experience for middle level students at AOS 93. Mission is engaging middle level students by providing authentic skill building learning experiences in a supportive and personalized environment. So I'm not going to read through all this, but basically, as with many alt-ed programs, they're created to meet the needs of students. Not every student is able to succeed at their potential in a traditional classroom setting. So alternative ed programs are created to meet that need. So the Cal program has been here in the district for quite some time. At one point, it was located in central office at some point, and then it moved here into Noblesboro. So because I'm the principal here, I'm the de facto director of the program. So it's something I really enjoy being responsible for the Cal program. And so the Cal experience, I kind of like to frame it with, you can kind of see it as like three different pillars, the three pillars of Cal. And that would be the authentic learning, the acquisition of knowledge and skills, and being supportive and personalized. And of course, these are things that we expect of like any classroom, of course, but Cal is able to kind of take them to like another level. That's the intent of it. So the authentic learning, you see students here, this was taken this year, volunteering at Habitat for Humanity in Rockland, and they're building a set of stairs into a basement of a new home that's being built for a family in need. And they built those stairs in one afternoon, and they had, it was just them and the site supervisor, and I can say that all the students felt very accomplished after that. So Linkage Learning is project-based, experiential, place-based, and usually there's some level of community service, and Habitat for Humanity certainly checks all those boxes. Acquisition of knowledge and skills. So students that are in the Cal program, they're, in addition to working on your typical academic or classes, they typically they're working on other things as well, like life skills, like cooking, and they're doing a lot of work around organizational work habits and executive functioning skills, as well as social emotional skills and competence. So again, these things happen in a lot of traditional classrooms, but with now, because of it takes it to another level. And part of that is because it's the level of support and personalization that they have for students that are. So it's a low teacher student ratio, so there's 10 students max and then 2 teachers. We have a system that helps the teachers get information, like more detailed social emotional information about the students. Called the PAIR program, holistic students assessment, kind of gets a little deeper into what makes the student tick and kind of how to motivate them, what their challenges are, what their strengths are. The Cal program, there's weekly social worker and guidance counselor support in the program, which is a little more integrated into their routine than typically a traditional classroom. They have personalized learning plans. And then something that we're looking forward to next year is kind of building in some mentoring opportunities for students in the program as well. Like one of the things that I recognize that's a challenge for kids when they leave the Fall Tech program here in our building is there isn't a Fall Tech program for freshmen and sophomore at Lincoln Academy. There is one for juniors and seniors, but I'd like to, the vision is to kind of stay connected with those kids in some way. And that would be, how can we bring them back here into our Cal program here and help them be a part of the experience. So for instance, if our kids are going to Habitat for Humanity, like be possible to have the kids at Lincoln Academy come along on those trips and just be a part of those experiences so they can be mentors to the younger students and feel a little more connected to place and history for as well. So those are some of the things that there's a little bit more capacity to do that within an All-Tech program than you would like traditionally in a regular classroom. So these are some of the partners that Cal has, and again, some of these are organizations that other teachers work with as well, but again, it's a little more deeply intertwined into the daily, weekly activities in Cal. So we got Coastal Rivers, they come in every other week to do work on the trails this year, and some other projects in the future. Hardy Roots is an organization that supports students, social emotional skills and resilience, building resiliency, and they come in once a week to work with our students as well. The Apprentice Shop, again, that's a organization in Rockville that works on building boats, but they work with students building toboggans and other things as well. We talked about PAIR a little bit. Starting in, I think March, maybe late, middle of March, the students are going to be going to the Darling Marine Center and doing some work down there. So I'm working on aquaculture and like different types of experiences on the campus, the beautiful campus that they have down there. So that's again, once the Apprentice Shop experience is done, the Habitat experience is done, they'll be moving into some other experiences around here. Again, like having a smaller group of kids just provides more opportunity to take those trips and getting them out to the community to do different things. These are just a list of some other places that they go and some other connections that they have with local organizations. So question that might come up is like, who comes to Cal? So students come to Cal for lots of different reasons. It's not, sometimes they're just not motivated as, to do the work of a regular classroom. Sometimes they feel disconnected to peers and staff. And sometimes it's a blend of all those things or whatever, but Cal is meant to be a place where students can kind of find a new spot and connect with teachers in a different way than they would have in their regular classroom. So students from Noblesboro are in the program, we have students from Jefferson in the program, we have students from Bristol in the program. It's open to those schools, and we follow a like a referral process that kind of matches like a special ed referral process, but it's not a special ed program, but we do have, we'd like to get information from the sending schools or from teachers to talk with families and teachers that would this be a good fit for the students? So it's not just intended to be a place where students get put if they're just misbehaving in the classroom. It's not a behavior classroom. There are certainly behaviors, of course, because there are in any classroom, but that's not like the entry into the program. It's really meant to give kids, you know, a different experience, a different educational experience, so they're not, so they don't fall behind. So I did add on here, I won't like read all this throughout, but you know, putting some parent feedback on there, ask parents to kind of like tell me like what, you know, your experience has been in Cal, like what's it meant to you and students in the program. And you know, every single parent that got back to me, it was, you know, the common refrain of like, well, you know, a student, my kid was not motivated, they didn't want to come to school, and now they're looking forward to like what's happening this week, if they want to be there on Fridays, they want to do this, that. You know, just the student wasn't connected with their peers, they just needed a change of place, and now they don't want to go back to their sending school, they're happy to be here, so lots of positive feedback on how the program is going. And you know, I think we've got even bigger ideas to develop moving forward, and I think we're, you know, we have a good trajectory for the program. It's there's lots and lots of pictures that I could have put in here to kind of give an idea, a taste of like what it looks like and what it feels like to be in Cal, but these are just some snapshots of their work.
Thank you.
Any questions or?
I have a question.
Yeah.
In your budget, where does it reflect the cost of this?
We'll get to that, Richard, when we go through the budget. We'll make sure that we point it out specifically.
So what's the ratio? I mean, do we have like Noblesboro residents, or is it fuller? Out
So
of
we have
town?
there are more Noblesboro students in it now. We have 2 students from Bristol, 1 student from Jefferson, and then 6 students from Noblesboro. And I think part of the reason why there's more just Noblesboro is just I think the teachers here are really more aware of like what the program is about and like the type of student that's successful there. And that's partially one of the reasons why I'm going around to the other schools to kind of talk about like, this is what it can do for students in other schools as well. But we do, you know, there are more students in it currently. Yeah, I think when the charter or whatever, or what the agreement was, when it was originally created, it had, it listed like 12 students as the number. You know, last year it was paper, you know, some historically it had 8 students, and I bumped it up to 10 this year. And then, you know, I do think we have the capacity to you know, it's that 12 student range as well.
So I guess my next question goes out to Lindsay, Peter, and you. Now that there is no mutual between the special education, how does funding come from other towns?
This is separate from those programs. This is not a special ed program, so it's not a regional program by the DOE. This is just a.
So do they pay tuition?
They could if we want to do, if you wanted to structure it that way. Right now, Cal is a third paid for by Jefferson, a third by Noblesboro, and a third by Bristol.
So it's a third paid by each, and it will stay that way?
That's the plan at this point. We have not indicated any other formulas at this point.
Yeah, and the transportation isn't included in that cost, so the sending schools.
Right, the sending schools do their
They
transportation.
pay for their own transportation.
Jefferson kids, they have their, you know, they have their own buses, Jefferson, so they work it out to transport students that way.
Okay.
And this year, you know, we worked it out with Bristol parents of Bristol students, but that's handled by the sending schools.
Appreciate it.
Does it begin in grade 6?
Yeah, it's 6th, 7th, and 8th. You know, we've, you know, and it's about like, oh, what if we did 5th through 8th, but really like the developmental difference between like that span is a bit too much. Sometimes you do come across some home ed programs that are that span, but I can just find like that age span is a little too wide. If I were to wave a magic wand, I would love to have a 5-6 home ed program and a 7-8 program. That would be my preference, but again, that's space, you know, of course, but for now, it's just 6 through 8.
And then how often are students taken out of the traditional classroom to participate in Cal?
That's a good question. I didn't touch upon it. So students that are in Cal, they participate in all the specials that every other student does here. So an eighth grader in Cal is gonna go to the eighth grade art class and gonna go to the eighth grade music class. And in some instances, they can choose not to go to music and they might do something else in the classroom. So they kind of have like more choice in some respect, but they still have their time, their peers in specials. And then they of course have lunch and recess and those types of breaks that are taken together. So they're not, that's another feature that you might find in some other alt-ed programs where they might be in a building that's like not even on campus or not a part of the building at all, and they might feel they might not be connected to the school. And some, I know in the Dom's program, they actually like having their own space away from the middle school. But I think here traditionally, it's just been something that, it's a part of the building and part of the school, and the kids are integrated. More integrated that way. So they have experiences together.
But when they're doing something like the field, I assume, going to the A shop is a field trip. And that happens on like a regular basis.
Yeah, so they would so this year, because it happens on Fridays, they're missing, one of the grades is missing PE. So we worked it out with the Mid-Coast Athletic Center. So they spend like an hour and a half there on the way back from Rockland, and they like run around and play in the gym, do stuff there at the back. So in case they're missing out.
I think one of the clarifications is the students in Cal are not in the general ed classes for math and science and reading and, well, they might for math. But for science and English and social studies, they're in the Cal program, not in the general ed
Yeah, we made a
classes.
change this year.
So they're
to
not missing them in a
schedule.
different one.
They used to participate in like the math classes and, but now we shifted it. So because what kids need is when they come right to school, they needed kind of like a anchoring time with their peers and with so because our middle level math classes are right at the beginning of the day, we ended up so we changed the schedule so that they have their own math class now versus being like scattered in the other classes. So that they can have that kind of check-in time as a group, I think, which is pretty important for students.
So it's a completely separate program. The overlap is the specials.
Yeah.
I have a question, maybe not be one that you can answer, but for the 9th and 10th graders who have graduated and done the Cal program, how are they faring in the traditional school setting?
Yeah, I don't have that on that, which is one of the reasons, that was one of the questions I had when I came here. I was like, what happened to the kids? Nobody really knew. So this is like one way, we have a mentoring program. That's like one way for us to kind of keep tabs on kids that have been done.
So Jen, because we don't operate a high school, we're not entitled to that data on the students. That's their personal data, their parents and the school they attend.
Yeah.
So,
I'm just curious about those gap years, if it's offered in.
yeah,
Is there a reason they don't do an alt-ed freshman and sophomore?
Adam has nothing to do with Lincoln Academy.
Well, I didn't know
Nor
if
do
anybody
I.
just knew a
It's
reason,
from-
Yeah, I mean,
because they used to.
I think they like to try to have the students be successful in the regular setting first and then see if they need it. But that's a question that we can ask Jeff Burrows or have them come back and do a presentation like they have in the past.
I wonder what, again, a question for him. I wonder how many of those kids end up in like a voc program.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. That's just a question.
yeah, I think.
And
we do
vocational
find, like, kids in
for
our program,
juniors.
There are some
Did you
that
see
like, they really light up when they're doing hands-on stuff and they're kind of those experiences. If that's a quicker, if we can find out, if we can help kids like discover that about themselves earlier, then they can be, and their families can be, we can be better advocates for them when they're freshmen, sophomore. Yeah. See a lot of them.
Any other questions for Adam? No? Okay, thank you very much. Can I have a motion for the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, please? Matt, and the second? Second. Three, any discussion? No, all in favor? 4-0. Thank you. The next regular meeting of the NCS School Board is Monday, February 12th at 5:30 here in the NCS Library. The next meeting of the AOS Board will be Tuesday, February 13th at 6 p.m. And that will be at Central Office. And is there an AOS
No, the meeting they had since yours was to send the budget to the public meeting, which held December 20th and had mixed results and passed in the end.
Yes.
With one amendment to reduce 17,500.
Thank you.
Last report.
Thanks. Superintendent's report.
Yes, so Tara was going to speak to the fall NUIA results, the minimal ones that are in the packet, if people would like to look at it, but she is home quite ill, so we're going to let her speak to that in February instead. And my part of it tonight is to note that we've had our nutrition review. The Department of Education, Nutrition Department has come into all of our schools to review our kitchens and our protocols, and as expected, Noblesboro did fabulously. Lots of compliments and a lot of good discussions about the program here as well. The only piece that came up to take care of was policy, that the wellness policy is supposed to be updated every 3 years and it hasn't been done in 4 or something. So nothing to do with the kitchen here, but a lot of commendations and excellent work to Angela and her sister. Stacy, thank you. So mine will be short tonight, but Tara will do the NUIA part next month.
Okay, is that policy, yes, in our first reads?
Yeah,
Thank
yes,
you.
it is.
All right. Adam, principal's
It's
report.
also going to the district wellness committee, which
Okay.
consists of representatives from the school, all the schools, so that they actually have first input on it.
Okay.
Okay, so 3 times. So some of the events I wanna point out that were happening right now. So actually, so today, the 8th graders took a trip to North Haven to play the North Haven basketball team, and we ended up turning it into an 8th grade trip, like, so kids had the option of like going. So it's since we're just like, well, the school experience, it happened during the day, the game was like early in the morning, and they were gonna get back in time, so it was a really cool experience. And we actually projected the game live in the cafeteria while kids were eating. Just a really cool experience. So I think that was like just a really, something that the kids won't ever forget. It's just cool to see that. Olivia Richmond are our teachers who can be starting here on January 24th, so it's pretty exciting to have her on board. We had to adjust the schedule a little bit to make it work, because she's also at South Bristol, but get excited there. Our winter academic assessments are beginning this week, basically, so that's gonna take up some time. And Lincoln County Dental Program, they offer free cleanings and evaluations to students that they're gonna be coming in this month as well, which is great. For kids to get some dental health. Third grades when Coastal Rivers with ski communities. Facilities update, I think the big one that everyone was wondering about is the main drinking water programs. They're gonna be here this Wednesday to inspect the new filtration and distribution system. Shep showed me a schematic of it, and it's a very complicated system. So glad that their engineers involved with that. So we've sent in samples for PFAS and E. coli. We tested at the lab, and we don't have a date to be certain as what we get the results. So it's just a wait and see, but hoping soon. Then let's see, so yeah, the gym lights were all completed, 3 of those in December, so we've completely finished all that lighting project, and reinstalled some network racks, put that to help us prep for some future tech projects. Our enrollment's at 146, got 2 new students coming this week.
Included in that number or not?
That's included.
Okay. And I see some roof shingles came off again?
Yeah, so it's.
Do you know how, like, 1 bundle, like 6 bundles, how far?
I didn't ask him like the number, I mean,
Okay.
so yeah, but I think that.
Just curious. Okay. Thank you. Anybody have questions for Adam?
I do for you.
Uh-oh.
So if you remember, which you might not,
Mhm.
you were gonna see if there was a drop in the electric bill.
There was not.
That's what
Not-
I was afraid
Not
of.
monetarily. But I did not look at, I didn't have multiples in front of me at a time.
Okay,
But I did not see a market drop
okay,
yet.
yet.
Yet. But it's also the time of year where we're using
Everything else,
more
okay.
lights because everything's dark
Mhm.
early and all of that. So, and basketball season, so the gym's on more and
Yeah.
so I would really like to see like December to December and compare the two and see.
If you come to central office, we got all
I'll
of the
get
bill.
I
cut.
know. I'll get on that. But I did,
Check.
yeah, and I mean. It wasn't higher, but it wasn't significantly lower.
And I think give that a little more time too.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't compare it to last December.
Right.
Mhm.
So it could be a lot lower than last December. I don't know that.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions on principal's report? All right. Old business, parking lot, grounds update. You have,
Oh, yes, Mike had asked me about using a lawyer in town to do a deed transfer or others, so I consulted with Drummond Woodson, and there are special for school regulations on that, so they said they would gladly draw that up for us, and take care of it as long as we were okay doing it in January, not December, because of their year-end other work, and I had said that was fine, so we'll start that process as appropriate over the next month or so.
okay. Do you need anything from us?
Not at this point that I know of yet. Wait, that was
Okay.
very redundant. Not at this point.
And have you heard from the surveyor? Nope, okay. I wasn't sure if you and Mike had talked about,
No,
he hasn't said
No.
anything to me either, okay. I'll make a note to check with him,
That will have to be done.
I actually gotta get
yeah.
I have to get a guarantee,
Mhm.
and then we'll have it surveyed.
Mhm.
Which I'll get her right away. Just
Okay.
a little like this last one.
Do you need a hand with that? Are you good?
No, I get it.
Okay,
I get it.
all right.
I'll get it.
All right, tell the truth. On to the budget. Peter,
Yeah, I do have a few more copies, if anybody wants to pass them around. Before we dive into the numbers here, I want to talk a little bit about our budget process. This is our first review of the budget. And I gave you, sort of some indication of the things I was seeing. And certainly there was a little bit more that was happening in this budget. At our last meeting, we meet again February 12th. And at that meeting, what we really want to have a budget passed February 12th that the school committee agrees to, et cetera. So that it can move on to the town budget committee, which would ideally, I think, like to have it in January, not February, but where, that has to be all coordinated. And I was just talking to Richard about the select board. Ideal time to meet would be in a couple of weeks to review it. I don't think there's any possibility of having it in that much time. If there's gonna be a thorough review by the school committee of line by line, et cetera. But I'm certainly willing to move as fast as the committee is able to. When we look at this tonight, we're gonna see that there's a lot of special ed costs in here. And I think that we're gonna wanna do another meeting in the next couple of weeks to drill into some of that, maybe have Kelly with us, to really look at what's happening when we take apart compass and pathways and deal with the repercussions of that, because it does add quite a bit of cost to the budget. Most of the other costs are more understandable by contractual obligations and specific costs. But there's a really unwieldy, sort of amount of things moving as we take apart these regional programs that I think we want to kind of take some time to look at together. With the other school committees this year, we've been having, and with some of them prior years, we've been having budget development workshops following this first reading with the school committee. And ideally, I'd like to schedule one of those with you tonight where we could do the line by line analysis that we typically do. I'm prepared to go as deep into this as you'd like to tonight. But I do feel that we should schedule another meeting before your February 12th meeting to do that kind of deep dive. And we did that last year. The date of that meeting is at your pleasure, aside from the other school committees that we serve. But I think it needs to be coordinated with this budget committee and the select board as to how that all fits together and comes to a final, set of articles for your March meeting. So I would like some guidance from all of you on how to proceed to set that schedule.
I have not heard from Dale about when he would like the school board to go to the budget meeting. He usually contacts me about that, but I haven't heard from him.
If I could, I spoke with Dale this morning. Normally, historically, we've always met with the school board on the third week of the month of January. The fourth week, we do the town budget. And add up all the good news. And, so that's 2 weeks from tonight. So I don't know how that fits in your plan. I think it's important you have time to fully vet this and look at what you really need and what you can do without. It's gonna be a dramatic increase.
Would it be possible to have one meeting, the budget committee and the line by line with the school committee?
I prefer not to.
Okay.
I honestly, I think we do a
Yeah, no,
lot of work before that and I'd rather be more prepared.
Did you say 2 weeks from today, Richard, or this week?
That's the normal procedure, and that's what I think Dale has in mind.
So you're saying that
You
we
have to
could,
understand,
Did
we have to put things together, in order to get the warrant for town meeting and the annual town reports done and published. So all this information that goes on town reports, it's important we get as much as we can. You know, in the past, we've had supplements on the school that we've added last minute. We didn't know exactly what the revenue side was. But, you know, and that's minor, but that's what, that prompts this whole thing and why we try to get it done in January.
I think the revenue is fairly important because it dictates how much you have for carryover and how much you have for subsidy from the state, which impacts the town share more than just the up and down cost. It is very important
We won't
to
hear
Peter and
till
I,
January 25th, the week of January 5th,
Right.
25th, about what the state.
and that'll be
subsidy is.
preliminary.
So that's, then we know that's a move target.
Well, but that, we've always had that. So like I said, that shouldn't, you know, be a problem with continuing on and you, as I say, vet this and have time to do it so that when you come to the budget committee, you feel strongly what you're presenting is what you absolutely need.
yeah, and I'm not sure that we're going to be able to dive deep enough in that kind of time frame.
I would, if I was you, I would recommend you reach out to Dale.
What is everybody's schedule like? We all work, so,
The other boards have been taking a day and coming to sit for 6 hours in central office with Peter and I and Adam and Kelly and going through it line by line and adjusting things to see what it does to the formula, to do, you know, to play with that as we go through. We've done that. One board scheduled 4 hours and didn't get through the whole budget. Another board scheduled 6 and did. So it's hard to do that at 6 PM. Yeah, we've been doing it starting at 8:30 in the morning. We know that's hard for you all. It's hard for us to do till midnight too,
Well,
both
let's
ways.
throw
Until
some
midnight.
dates out and we'll just see if we can make it work.
Mike can't do anything until the 22nd or the 24th. I talked to him about this already.
Okay.
Yeah.
The 22nd or the 24th, those are the only 2 days he can do.
Yep, and it's evenings.
I would say one thing, earlier when I said this would impact a full mill, I was mistaken. I looked at the last page, I just looked at it quickly. And the increase of $600,000, that's over 2 mills.
Okay.
And we need to consider that.
Okay. Can we give us some time to actually dig into it? Cause we still haven't actually gotten all the way through it yet. So I'd like to address the schedule up front and then we can see if we feel like we need more than one or how many hours or so on and so forth after we get through this. But can anybody do any time during the day? I know, Matt, you're up in the air with,
Yeah, I mean,
because of the weather.
well, I can. I'd rather do it at night, but I can.
Either of you have any flexibility in daytimes?
Night is definitely better for me as well, but if there's a date that's
What about
thrown out
late
during the
afternoon?
day, that's better. A lot of stuff revolves around the post office for me, which closes at 4.
Okay.
But if there's a date that's thrown out, I'll see if I can make it work.
Jen?
I'm in the same boat. You can try to get some time off of work if there's a certain day, depending on the day.
Okay,
Just can't guarantee at this exact moment what day that might be.
all right. And late afternoons are better?
Probably, yeah.
You as
Yeah, I
well?
can make,
Okay,
I mean, I can do during the day. It's just,
all right. We had preliminary talked about this, and the first opening you had was the 18th. Is that still correct?
We could do during the day on the 18th. Peter, you need to have your schedule out as well.
He
I have mine.
does, yeah.
I mean, this is all I do this year, this time of year,
Right.
so I'm fine on the 18th. And I'm fine on the
The 16th,
19th,
oh, yeah,
17th, we're doing the same thing with Bristol all day.
right.
Before then, maybe a little bit early, considering some of the other things we have to prepare between now and then. And
Which one? Look at the week of the 22nd.
I'd like to try and do next week if at all possible.
Mike didn't have any time at night or
Mm.
anything.
That's all right, we'll move forward.
Mm.
We'll be okay.
18th or 19th in the afternoon, what's your availability between the two of you?
Friday afternoon, I actually have some meetings and then I'm out of town
Okay,
after 5.
and the 18th?
That I can,
You've blocked that off for us already.
I blocked off day.
Day, okay.
Can do. I can't from 3 to 4. I'll have to step out from that time.
I
and
can make the
possibly
18th
4 to
work
5.
during the day. That's enough notice that I can make something work.
I should be able to.
It's a birthday for me. It's fine. I will
Is there
figure it out.
anything before then? Not for anybody?
No, that's the earliest day I would be available.
Okay.
Does 2 o'clock to start work for everybody?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's our long-term forecast look like? The likelihood that you might be able to be there or not?
Thursday.
The 18th?
Yeah, so not this Thursday, but next.
I don't know, anybody on speed dial with Mother Nature? Odds are we were.
Well, if we stick to the every 3, that will be
You can just come
after,
pick us
right?
up.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
so like starting around 2 o'clock on the 18th at central office, does that work for you, Peter?
that works fine for me. I think your anticipated end time would be close to 7 PM.
Okay.
We can
So you're
always-
buying dinner?
All right, so that is the 18th.
Got
At 2 at central office.
And I will post that as a workshop because.
Yep.
You'll.
Yeah. Okay, so I would like to go pretty deep into it tonight, just so that we can really take advantage of.
Do you want it as a workshop where no action can be taken, or a special meeting where if you decided to approve it after you played with it, you could take action and approve it that evening? Just, you have the ability.
I would do it as a
That
special
one,
meeting, because if
yeah.
it goes well tonight and it goes well then
Right,
we
then
could
you'll
be
be
done.
So I'll post it as a
I
special meeting. for you.
Suspect we're probably going to need to do something else as well, but
But to have the option. is
to have the
nice.
option is better,
It's
yeah.
optimistic.
Yep.
I like it.
Try and be. Okay, so, yeah, if we can,
Okay, you want to drill in?
yep,
Before I drill in, I believe this is Lindsay's call. Is Adam, do you want Adam to present something on this, overview of this before? I-
Yes, he had a presentation. That'd be a great place
I
to
have
start.
go
Thank
first.
you. Yes. We'll start at his overview and then dig into your details.
Projecting it again. A little similar to last year's.
Could you speak up, please?
Yes, I'll just do my best. All right, so here's just kind of like the budget, again, not super into super detail, so I thank the school board for serving, being part of this. I always like to kind of frame the presentation first with just by putting our mission statement up there. I think it's important to read it. NCS is dedicated to creating and supporting a challenging, respectful, and safe learning environment where the uniqueness of each individual is honored. Something that we've done this year as a staff is to talk a little bit about what it means to achieve, what student achievement is at Noblesboro. And so we've this year we've broken it into 3 main categories. I talked about this at some of the other board meetings, but it's another part that kind of frames my thinking when I go into figuring out, like trying to, advocate for a budget for students. So the 3 main areas be skills and knowledge, meaningful experiences, and character. So those are kind of like the 3 buckets that we want to fill up for students. And sometimes 2 of those buckets are, same category, sometimes it's all three, sometimes just one, but I just kind of like to think of it as three dimensions. So last year, there was, last year's budget, we kind of in two major funding goals. One of those was to meet the individual social, emotional, and instructional needs of our students, and that kind of falls within that character and social, emotional budget that, bucket that we talked about. And also investing in the building so that it remains a source of community pride. So we were able to hire a special education teacher to run our SSE behavior program and staff it with 3 ed techs. Two of those are long-term guest teachers. We now have a full-time guidance counselor, which we didn't before last year, and have added community supports from Hardy Roots to help meet our social emotional needs. We also expanded the CAL program to serve more students and do so more dynamically. So we did add, there were parts of the budget that were added so that CAL could do more of the things that they're doing this year. As far as the building goes, we were able to install a brand new kitchen steamer that broke down. That was unexpected. We did plan on that, of course, and then that fix actually went over by 15 grand. So no other major facility upgrades have taken place beyond the sufficiency main lighting upgrades. Some of the things that you were looking to do like last year had to be bumped into this year because we didn't have that capacity to take that on. So this year, the two major funding goals, some of the things that I'm asking for within the budget, there are significant increases to the facilities line in order to maintain a safe and secure school building. So this increases the custodial staff compensation in order to retain and attract highly skilled workers. Funding for parking lot improvements, which we've been talking about, and then just general upkeep of the building. I'll kind of go through a list of some of the things that we're looking to do next year. In this budget, also, increases and strengthens after-school programming opportunities and experiences, so that some of these are going to be found in the student and staff support and other instruction lines. But this kind of falls a little bit more within the meaningful experiences bucket, I would say, versus last year, kind of the character bucket, but it's kind of how I'm framing this. So these are some of the additions that you'll see that I'll be looking to add. So adding art, outing, other after-school clubs, maintaining competitive coaching and athletic director compensation. So there's an increase there. So, and adding some summer school programming, which we weren't, only reason why summer school programming happened this year is because there was a grant from the state and that's not always there. We need to make sure we have that in our pocket. And funding, adding funding to our after-school tutoring line. So right now we have homework club that's already happening, but I'd like to see some more funds go into there to support students that have that need some more one-on-one tutoring for various reasons to give us more flexibility. This is kind of the the big picture budget overview, each of the cost centers, and you can see the second column tells you what the final the amount is, and then the second column is the increase from the previous year, and then the fourth column is the percent increase on those.
Sorry, say that again.
So the second column is what the
Increase,
requested would be,
Okay.
the amount, the requested amount. this
and then
year.
the percentage of that request.
Third column is like the increase, and then the fourth column is percent over last year's.
Okay.
So kind of when I was talking about looking to increase those meaningful experiences for kids and after school opportunities, and to make sure that we have coaches that are working with our students in sports programs, like that's going to fall under like student staff support and other instruction. So that's where you see kind of so the bigger increases in this budget. Now, of course, these lines are, some of the smaller lines in the budget, but again, those are increases that I feel are going to make a big impact on students, but they're increases nonetheless. And of course, our facilities budget here, it's another increase, 23%, to keep the building safe and secure and looking good. And overall, I'm seeing 15%. And then I, just broke it up into, what sort of things are within each of these cost centers, so regular instruction. So it's critical that we maintain the current level of staffing that we have in the building.
Is that the Esser Cliff? Is that what we're seeing?
I think that's part of, so we're money we've had federal money that's came from COVID that's been supporting staff that are within the building. And so that money is going away. So we need to, we are now taking on locally that cost of that. And I just have to say that's critical, that we need to keep the staff that we have here and not go back. Special education, there's gonna be a lot of talk about this. I just put some considerations in here for special ed moving forward. Just, the question is, like, the big question is, what do you do in situations now and how do we budget for that in the future? So without Compass and Pathways, those agreements expiring, and we can have situations where students move into the district, and we need to be prepared for that. We need to be proactive, and we have to be ready to support that student, whether it's placing them in a non-district place or placement or educating them here. They're, our kids are our responsibility. And then just I put on their space, like, I know I hear, just about every school in Mid-Coast doesn't have as many kids as they used to, like 20 years ago. If you look at just about any school up and down, whether it's high school, middle school, or elementary school, there were probably more kids that were here back in the day, I think, every school I've worked with kind of has the same story, but we have more programmatic expectations for students than we did in the past. And every time you have a new program that supports a student, you have to have a space for it. You have to have people and you have to have a place for it to happen. So that's where, Compass and Pathways and Cal, we have occupational therapists, we have needs of students that get to work with them individually in small groups. Every time you have, you're trying to meet the unique needs of those students. That's our mission statement. We have a place and we have to have people to do that. So a lot of that falls under special ed. Career and tech ed, this is always the line that people kind of laugh about, $200 on that line, but that's for students that decide to go to the Rockland vote instead of the Bath vote. And other instruction, again, this is where those coaching and ID stipends fall. It's important to know, talking to Ms. York as our AD, we collaborated on what we should do for coaches here. We looked at what was happening, looked at the coaching stipends and all the schools around us and kind of fell on bringing our stipends up to more like in line with Jefferson, and not as much as GSB, not as much as Bristol, but in Jefferson. And then adding another sport for students, cheering, which hasn't been here as far as I know in the past, but there's a lot of students that are expressing interest in that. And there's some staff that are really interested in being mentors and coaches for students to do that. And again, this, also maintaining the supports that we added last year with Hardy Roots and other organizations like Hurricane. Student and staff support, like one of the increases on this is, one of our social emotional curriculum that we have K-8. There was a pretty big increase from $500 to $2,500 for that, but that's the curriculum that our guidance counselor uses with our students K-8 to help students build some skills there. This is our system administration line. This is the NCS share of the OS budget, which I believe was voted on and approved in December. School admin, it's where myself and Robin and our school office here live, that budget line. Transportation, of course. There's the increase that Peter talked a little bit about. And then again, I think this is a big one. It's worth noting. I spent some time on this last year as well, but just, this budget increases the facilities line substantially in order to maintain a safe and secure school building. So these are some of the key things that we are looking at for this. And it's 23% increase, $80,000. These are the things that we're looking to have happen next year. So the site planning for the parking addition, that's looking at $35,000 for that. The Cal wing of the building, there's 8 windows there that just aren't in good condition, and some of them don't close all the way, and it's not very safe and secure. Those need to be fixed. These are all estimates that Shep was able to get to prepare for this budget. We need a gym safety inspection, that's $5,000. We have to replace the 2 hoop raising mechanisms in the gym, those aren't working properly. The snack shack needs to move. Stage wall needs to be fixed, doesn't work properly. I added on here like a capital improvement, but really it's more of a capital contingency, just $10,000, just in case something that we haven't prepared for doesn't go well. Like last year, the boiler, not the boiler, but the steamer went. That was a $35,000 piece of machinery that feeds the kids and that helps feed our kids in the building, and that's a pretty, important part of the daily activities here. But that was something that wasn't necessarily budgeted, but we were able to pay for it, but it just meant that something else got deferred, some other maintenance was deferred, or some other thing that needed to be fixed. It has to be pushed down the road. One of those was the bathroom stalls, like we had that in the budget to happen this year, but we had to push that down the road, so that's been in our facilities maintenance line again. And then we've got some network cabling and switches. This is an E-rate project that we get some money from either the federal government or state, something to kind of help update our internet capability, and also give us the opportunity to build in some security cameras and just different types of security technological.
It says before phones and doors.
What's that?
Says this must happen first before phones and doors.
Yeah, so one of the
What's
ideas, so right now, for instance, our phones that are in the room can't make an external call. And people also can't call like a lockdown from their rooms, and so there's lots of reasons why it'd be good to have that ability in a classroom. So our phones don't have that. So in order for us to have phones 2 years from now, we need to do this. We're cabling first. The idea is like we'll cable next year, the year after that, get our phones installed in the classrooms to make them safer, and also make it so teachers can use classroom phones to contact parents and whatnot. But also to install doors that have like more secure doors that something that's been suggested by talk about our security. But we have to have those. If we're gonna go to like the key card entry, for instance, we have to have, everything has to be cabled first before we do like those safety and security upgrades.
And the E-rate project, is that similar to, if we don't use the funds, are they going to disappear? Or is it,
Yeah, it's the same as the lighting
The lighting
project. Yes,
project.
it's just a different, they have different categories and do things.
And then they offset that, so with the grant. And then again, I put this slide in there last year, just as a reminder, the roof is, I guess, 12 years old now. We changed the year, sorry, that was my mistake. It's 12 years old now. And that was the cost in 2011, and that again, it's a middle-aged roof, and so that's gonna need fixing. It's already needing to be fixed up every now and then during storms, but that's of course gonna be fixed up. And then the school lunch program. Increase there. That was the last slide.
can you go back to the facility slide and just leave it on that for
Sure.
us? Thanks. Okay. Any questions before we have Peter start?
You might want to just have Peter jump in
Yeah.
and then do as you go article by article.
Ready to go?
Yep,
Okay, all right, you say article by article, or do you actually want line by line, or what? You tell me if you want me to go in deeper or step back, I'll just go at the pace that I think that is most efficient. Does that make sense?
I think we need to do line by line.
So the first few lines are the revenue lines, and the local appropriation required is a number that we will receive at the end of January from the state in DD 279, and that'll be a set amount. And then the balance between that, all the other revenue lines, and what we actually spend is the local appropriation additional. So the additional is the one we set last, and we can't do that until all the others fall in place. The state subsidy also comes on the 8279. The only number we know now is that the fund beginning balance is 160,000. And my business office records for the close of FY 23 in June of last year had $160,300 in it. So this is really rolling everything forward. Not, it leaves a couple hundred in the bank, but before the auditor sees it, I don't even know if that's there. So my intent here is, as I've been asked by Noble Borough, to move every nickel forward, and that's what this number essentially represents. Teacher salary line is the first line in the regular education instruction, regular instruction cost center. And, one of the big things that this line brings to mind immediately is that we have no more ESSER funding. Those years of additional COVID funding are gone. We don't budget a single nickel in this budget for that. So, we had some funds going towards teachers this year, a teacher from ESSER funding. That's all out of here now. And this is, supporting the staff that I believe grew over the COVID years, with only general fund money to now support it. The other thing that we're experiencing here is, and throughout this entire budget, there is not a single position added. This is the exact staff you have in the building now. You're short one custodian, and you really want that position to get filled because you're paying more to do it contractually than if you could fill that position. And we budgeted to fill that position again with our fingers crossed.
Very true.
But this doesn't add any people to the building whatsoever. So when we see the $118,000 increase in the teacher salary, part of that is the loss of some of the ESSER funding. Another part of it is just balancing actuals to what we budgeted a year ago based on who joined in last year and what they get paid. Finally, you do not have a contract in place for next year for your teachers. So what I've done is taken a look over sort of the last decade, and all things being equal, it averages out to, with both steps and wage increases, about a 4.5% per year increase. And so I've increased the people by 4.5% as a mark in the sand for it to be negotiated. That seems to be the data point that is what I put in here. And but you will be heading into your budget and into your public meeting without a contract set. And so just be aware of that. But there is a money in here for 4.5% total increase that includes all steps and advanced degrees and wage increases. But there's no more than that. I haven't hidden any money anywhere. So if it goes beyond that, you do not have money in this budget to pay it.
So, when we first brought on the second, first grade, we asked the question then, how many years are we going to need to maintain this second class? Because we were worried about this happening. Where do we stand with that? How, I mean, the number is what, 21, I believe, in that class, 20? Second grade, so it's 21. You know, back when we initially asked you, everyone was saying that as children get older, it's easier to funnel them back into one class. But this is still maintaining two, I'm assuming.
Yeah, except, so the plan is, that class still needs a lot of support, but, the class will be put together. The idea would there be an ed tech supporting that class. And the teaching position would be, turned into an MTSS, interventionist / like enrichment / Title I teacher, to teach algebra, and to work with students that have reading and math sports that are needed, and to help oversee the Title I program as a teaching position. Right now, we have some ed techs, totally capable ed techs of doing the intervention, but we are definitely in need of somebody to manage the MTSS caseload and to teach our algebra class. Right now, Cal teacher is teaching algebra to students, and next year, taught by my teacher, our teachers.
Do you have a projected kindergarten enrollment for next year? Is it high again?
I don't have it yet.
So ed tech salary, you've got a 20% decrease on
Yeah,
line
it's
6.
just,
Is that because we haven't filled that one position?
You know, that's because, just the way things get split between special ed techs and actual regular ed techs. Somebody became 50% sped ed, special ed, so half their salary moved into the other cost center.
Is that this potential MTSS intervention position?
No, I don't believe so. Is it? That is not indicated in my spreadsheet from HR, the MTSS as a designation for that. No.
Does MTSS fall under special ed?
No,
That's right.
it's a regular ed intervention.
Okay.
So the ed tech salaries, these are not, under the teacher contract. These are under the support staff contract and guidance for which school committee has already set. And this includes the numbers, from your, most recent, guidance. A substitute salary, you'll
Benefits guide
notice
that you
big
approved
increase
each
here,
year.
I've added 15,000 to it. And that's because of the new main, law on, leave, which beginning halfway through our next fiscal year will allow people to take significant leave, but, well, it's the most progressive leave act in the country, all 50 states. And we anticipate it to be used, and we anticipate these substitutes to cover people when they're gone. And, we received guidance from our attorneys to be prepared for this, to start budgeting this line for this, because, it's gonna be a big experiment for the state. It's gonna be a wild ride when people find all kinds of, ability to not be here from time to time. We need to.
So the Family and Medical Leave Act allows employees to request not through us as a district, but through the state. There's a board for the Department of Labor that will approve these for employees across the state. Leave, and it's not, our current medical leaves are limited to your spouse, your children, your parents, et cetera. This opens up the door to anybody you feel close to that may need support from you to take leaves. So across the state, they are expecting quite an influx of leave from, not education, from everywhere, as people need to take care of other needs.
They refer to it as the bestie law. You take care of your best friends. Take 12
I
weeks
hadn't
off.
heard that before.
Can you just go back to the ed tech salary real quick? I'm
Yep.
sorry. Not following, so what you're saying is that we are moving, so we have a 20% decrease in this line, so I should expect to be seeing a 20% increase in the special ed tech line?
Yes, there is an increase there.
Okay. So it's not
Yeah, yeah.
actually, it's actually a 4% increase.
30,000 increase in special ed. I mean, things, when we budget, we get guidance on where people are gonna be. Then that's done in this time of year. And then school starts 9 months later, and we get to find out where they are
Mhm.
and and how things have all settled. And then when we put that data in to budget for the next year. And, we're doing that for 5 schools. There's a lot of movement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so the teacher leader stipend, there's, Adam has asked for $3,000 for that, up from $2,250, and my understanding is that's per the agreement.
Yeah.
And then the homework tutor stipend, we followed the homework tutor stipend for,
That's not in the
Well, I was
current
gonna say-
agreement.
Yeah,
what's not?
That's not,
that's not in the current.
that's not the current contract. That's 3. Sorry,
No,
no,
That's my mistake.
So that, can that be reduced back to $2,250?
we'll leave it there for now. I'll pull up the current contract, but I think it's at 25, 2250, 25. I'll find the contract and look it up.
We have the contract as central
Yeah.
office too. Peter can check that.
The line we call HW tutor stipend, that has been historically funded at $5,000. Adam has asked to add another 3,600 to that to provide additional tutoring to other students, not just homework tutoring, but tutoring for other types of need. And so that's an increase of $3,600 that's being requested for the principal. The next lines, the benefit lines here, those are straight up 2% because that's what it comes out at when we do the taxes, et cetera. So that brings us down to teacher health insurance. You'll see that's going up $14,463. And the reason why is because last year when we budgeted, we increased it at 8%. We find out in March, about the same time the public meeting approves the budget, we find out what the actual increase was. It wasn't so bad last year, so we had increased it 8% for the budget. It actually didn't go up that much. We're increasing it again from the actual 8%, but the actual impact on that would only be $14,000 if it does go up the 8%. The next line is historic, and we don't need any for that for this year. The, ed tech health, the irregular ed, that, ed tech is not using the health insurance, so there's nothing there. Teacher leader stipend, retirement, the next few lines are retirement. That brings us down to, line 22. That's all 4.47% of the salary for ed techs and teachers is contributed to main PERS. So those are straight up equations,
What was the percentage again?
4.47.
Thank you.
Okay, and same for the substitute. Teacher tuition, as you're all aware, we're contractually obligated to provide tuition to teachers to advance their education. And the number Adam has requested is flatlining that at 6,000. The principal advises us on who's pursuing what is needed. So that's the understanding at this time. Teacher cash in lieu, this is for those folks who do not opt into the insurance and receive a dollar amount instead, is $2,600 there. The ed tech that's not getting insurance is getting $1,000 cash in lieu. Instructional equipment maintenance is flatlined at $400. Copier lease, this is an actual with our contract of $3,440. There's another line in the school administration of the same amount for the split between instruction and the office.
That was line 26?
What's that?
That's line 26?
27.
27 copier lease.
Okay, my eyes are bugging out.
Don't worry.
Wait, 27, okay,
26
so
is
that's,
instructional equipment maintenance.
so that's a 50-50
Mhm.
between this and office, right? So what you said? Okay,
You'll
thank
see
you.
the same, you'll see it in there, and I'm just saying it now because we think, well, didn't we already see that earlier? Yes. So don't worry.
Okay.
Instruction, travel, mileage, that's flatlined at 500. Travel for professional development is flatlined at 200. STEAM instructional supplies, that number is, got 15 cents added to it just to round it off, but it's pretty much flatlined at $4,000. It's been at for a while. Instructional textbooks did not increase, 81.25 from last year. Dues and fees did not increase, $200. Tutor salary, secondary, $350 is available for that, with a little bit of benefits in retirement based on those percentages I gave you earlier. Secondary public tuition. This is for 2 students who are attending local public schools, and the tuition is dictated by the state for 2 students will be $25,048. And the private tuition for mostly Lincoln Academy students will be $954,348. The insured value that goes with that, $57,285. And then the instructional contingency, this is 2 students at the tuition plus the insured value. So if 2 students were to move to town, you have enough to spend anything like that. And that's $31,908.
Hold on. Can you email this to me with the lines and the graph? I can't follow it. So you're saying the 40 is instructional contingency and that's 2 students? Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I keep referring above it though, that's the problem. And so the line 39 is insured value on line 38.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So those are, okay, thank you.
There's no money being provided for ELL services, hasn't been needed, and we're not aware there would be this year. Alt ed secondary tuition for those is flatlined at 2,400 for those students that may elect that in secondary. And then we are flatlining the Cal input, the Cal budget as well. And this would be Nobleboro's share of that, which is 1/3 of the cost of the Cal program. And the Cal program pretty much just is, it's mostly a couple of salaries. And we looked at that later.
So you've got summer school under there without a number.
No, that's 8,000.
8,000.
No, I meant line number.
Oh, yeah, correct. As you, I think I mentioned earlier, we are migrating to the new enterprise system. So I had to build this budget in Excel rather than in our accounting system. So when I download this, it's impossible for me to add if I add a new line like summer school, I can't add a number.
Yeah, it's fine.
So we'll see a few of those as we go,
But that's the 8,000 that Adam spoke to.
Yeah.
Okay.
and that's for regular instruction, school. There's also some special ed summer school that will be in special ed. So the first line top of page 2 is actually the summary of for the cost center. And you'll see by looking over to the far right, that in regular instruction, we're seeing a 10% increase. Or a 214,526.61 increase in regular instruction. And if we go back and look at that, we see that more than half of that is teacher salaries. And then and then if you look at your secondary tuition, you'll find most of the rest of it. So in all of regular instruction, teacher salaries and tuition at Lincoln Academy is almost everything that's happening different. Special ed. The sped teacher salaries actually don't change. And that is just the way, budgeting one year to the next. It has the same 4.5% increase in there, but it just worked out that it was, exactly the same. Ed tech salaries, went up, or actually, excuse me, went up $10,000. I didn't mean exactly the same, went up 10,000, or 9,700. Ed tech salaries, went up 30,268. That's again, mostly because of that person who we thought was all reg ed became half special ed. So that was, sort of just moving a half person around. Sped tutor salary flatlined at 350. Sped teacher benefits, these next few benefit lines are all just straight up percentage, 2% of the salary. Health insurance is going up 18,000 for the sped teachers. Just people in the positions changing, different plans costing a different amount. But there's only an 8% increase budgeted in for the actual cost of insurance here, but depends what plans the individuals choose as to what it actually costs. So these are all the insurance is based on actuals of the individuals in the positions now or we're actually paying. If people change, it can be significant swings in the what kind of insurance they buy into, but this is built on people in place today and what they've selected. Ed tech health insurance, goes up $435. Skip the line, it's retirement. The retirement is all, again, just 4.47% of the salaries. So there's nothing, really kind of new about any of that. Sped teacher tuition. This line was 6,000 last year, 7,000 the year before, and Kelly has requested to be 9,000 this coming year. And then that sped ed tech cash in lieu, again, that's when somebody does not take the health insurance, so we just give them some money as a cash in lieu. Sped conferences, professional services, flatline at $402. Sped supplies increased from 2,500 to 4,000. And I just remind you, almost all of this section, Kelly really kind of sat down and she took apart those regional programs, looked at the specific students in this building that would need these services and what the plans were, and did a line by line, budget based on what's actually happening.
So this is based on the fact that Compass of Pathways needs because of those programs are dissolving.
Yes,
Okay.
and who the actual students are that we anticipate being here next year. That's always a moving target, and you'll see some lines coming up later that begin to show we don't know what will be happening here in 9 months with who will be in this building needing what services, but we're planning based on what we do know now and what we need to be.
Just to point out, they may also not be in this building and need services, and that's a responsibility of Noblesboro, the town. Right.
Okay, so I believe we're on line 60, special placement, secondary public tuition. There's none needed for that, for the public tuition, but special placement, secondary private tuition. This is to pay for the special ed services at Lincoln Academy, $128,196. So that's up $22,000 from last year, based on the rate that the state sets for us and the students that you have attending. we pick it out.
So that's current students at LA.
Nope, it's
That's who will be there.
8
We'll
through
be there
11.
next- okay,
Yes,
thank you.
it's current 8 through 11.
Okay, thanks.
Great.
The Pathways program share on line 62 is now gone. So the 202,000 you contributing this year, you will not contribute next year. But as you'll see as we go, that has repercussions. And the Compass program share of 170, 458, 17 is now gone. Shrek program fee, to participate in that program, which allows us to use the special ed services of the Sheepscot Regional Educational Service Center, ESC. We pay a member or non-member fee of $5,150. But that again is a good insurance policy, should you be needing their services.
Since it's non-member, we only pay if we use it.
Okay,
Lindsay, can you repeat that, please?
Since we're a non-member of the program, we only expend that money if we have a student go there. It's not pay to play. We don't pay in regardless.
SPED secondary tutor is $350 available if that's needed, along with the benefits of retirement, that would be part of that. And the SPED admin cost is the money that Millboro contributes to the central office for the special ed director and assistant director and and the special ed executive assistant. So there's three people that you're participating in funding there, and all their supplies, et cetera, and rents for their space. And that's gone up $4,178 this year. SPED online subscriptions that are shared to pay for, the software, et cetera, to subscribe, $872. That, you see that just bounces around, follows our cost sharing formula. So whatever percentage Novabro comes in at, adjust those numbers as a shared expense. The social worker salary has gone up. Again, it's on a teacher's contract, that's a 4.5% increase. And social worker benefits and retirement follow the same formula as I've indicated before. And that receives a $1,000 cash into not health insurance. SPED share of the elementary school psychologist is $18,406 this year. And contractually, psychology for secondary students is $3,000. BCBA contracted services of $2,000 are in here. And there's nothing in here for speech salary because we made that a contracted service last year. So you jump down and you see line 81 has 50,000 in it for contracted speech elementary.
So just to clarify, if we were able to hire somebody, we would just move the money from line 81 to line 77 to 80, because we prefer an employee.
which is why we've left it in here, yes.
Yeah, left that line in.
Okay,
Lindsay, where do we pay Alan Tomasello, which means that?
He would be a BCBA contracted service.
Contracted speech for secondary is 11,000. Speech and travel mileage is no longer needed because it's contracted. SPED shared occupational therapist. According to the information Kelly gave me, we do not, Novabro does not need to pay a share of that this year. Or the occupational therapy secondary contracted. To be honest, I'm not sure why not, but that's the information she gave me, and I know she's on top of it. Personally, I'm gonna check that to make sure I didn't miss anything there. But, that is what I have in front of me in my SPED documents. SPED share of physical therapy for elementary is $7,007. SPED share of, physical therapy secondary, 1,923. And then we're about to enter into a bunch of costs that are new to your budget, that Kelly has included here. The ESY, the extended school year, which is mandatory special ed services that need to be provided for special ed students. That cost, Kelly anticipates being $12,600, which is a big jump from what we put in there before. But as she's said, we've never really funded it fully before, and I think that those other programs are taking care of some of that. Compensatory summer services and compensatory summer transportation. These are also new lines Kelly's identified of 7,000 and 5,040 to pay for other required special ed services that we have to provide in the summer. Kelly's plan calls for a school psychologist intern that's shared between the schools, and the total cost of the whole package, which is that salary, benefits, and health insurance, would be $9,500 to Noblesboro. The secondary SPED placement reserve. This is if you have a secondary student that needs to attend someplace out of district. 65,000 is what Kelly is suggesting you put into a reserve. She does not know whether that will be needed or not. But to come up and not have it would be a big problem. So her recommendation and my recommendation, because we all talked about it, is to put that money into reserve, to set up a special ed reserve and begin to put that much money away for a couple of years. So that then you had it, and it gave you time to build it. I know that there's a lot of concern about building up excessive reserves, but this is why I'm saying we need to have a couple meetings. And I'd like you to give that some thoughtful consideration as you look at all your, like, what would happen if you didn't have some of this money available.
Peter, sorry, can you
Yep.
tell me, is that for like a child that goes for a week? Is that what we're talking?
Potentially, a high
Okay,
school
thank
student,
you.
yes.
Just trying to be clear.
And it could cost a lot more. It costs twice that easy, if not 3 times that.
Yeah,
Just for a
That's
single
why
year.
beginning
Yeah,
bank, some of
that's,
it
yeah.
can help. And secondary SPED placement reserve, life skills elementary tuition. 80,000.
No, that's not a reserve, that's for a student we currently have,
That's
or
replacing
will
the
need.
pathway share section.
Be able to, handle the students you currently have. And elementary tuition SPED behavior, 200,000. These are big numbers, right? And I'm not shying away from it. That's why I said we really want to drill into the SPED stuff and make sure that we understand.
Peter, will you explain again, so the life skills and for the $80,000, excuse me, and then the elementary tuition special ed, that's because we dissolved Compass and Catholic.
Right, so that's in place of the 212 and the 170 up above, that's no longer.
Yeah, no, I understand that part, but
Because
okay.
that's this year's budget and this is next year's budget. So we have to categorize.
Yeah. It's like, I'm looking at. Yeah.
So if going back a bit
Taking a
to
lot of notes.
the lines above, 62 and 63.
Mhm.
You'll see the last year, or the current year we're in right now, Noblesboro is paying $212,040.16 to a program, which is the life skills program that actually takes place and is housed in Jefferson. And you're paying $170,458.17 to the behavior program that's housed in Bristol. So that's $382,000 some odd dollars that is currently going there for that purpose. And what Kelly is saying is that you still need to cover the students, but we can do it in this other way down here.
So I guess the other question is.
We can't answer
Yeah.
that question. It's not necessarily gonna be here. A special ed IEP placement has to be based on the IEP team and what's best for a student. You would never make a wholesale, all the students are coming here or all the students are going somewhere else. So that will happen over the course of the spring. Those meetings will happen and determine what's appropriate for each student. And then if it's an outside placement, we'll find one. And if it's here, that means that they've showed success with the right amount of supports to be safe and it's successful here, but we can't make a blanket statement on where everybody will go. That would be contraintuitive to the special ed laws.
I have a quick question, and I'm really sorry, I don't know who to direct this to. Line 88, extended ESY, extended year, is that extended year services?
Yes,
So EYS,
extended school year. yeah.
extended school year, thank you. Can somebody just tell me, I just need a little clarification of what that means.
So if you have a special ed student that if they don't receive any type of support services over the summer might face significant learning loss. And so they wouldn't, when they come back in the fall, they would have to catch up a lot before they can continue to make progress. They might be eligible for summer school services here in the building. Or occasionally you might pay Great Salt Bay to have them go over there for part of the summer. And it might be an hour a day for 5 weeks, or it might be 2 hours a day for 8 weeks. It depends on their need and what we've seen demonstrated through the data of the loss or the potential effect of not having services for the entire summer.
Okay. So it's different from what we call summer school.
Yes, it's different than your regular ed summer school program, which is more enrichment based and just some minor skills comparatively.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
The last line in this cost center is just school psychology supplies 2,500. And that, sort of brings the whole cost center to despite these big numbers that we saw, it's only a $78,000 increase or an 8%. So it's actually a less percentage increase than regular ed. But it's highly volatile. I think that's the big thing that I would, just point out. You really don't know how special ed is gonna land day to day. Things move dramatically. Students have different occurrences in their life that change their need. And if they move out of town or into town, things, are big financial impacts. And so it's a very dynamic and volatile part of your budget. And that's exactly why Kelly and I recommend looking at, try and stabilize that by using a special ed reserve. Because if you can, kind of pay now and for the next couple of years and build a reserve, then you have control over that when it happens. And, I've seen that in some of the larger districts I've worked with, to be able to use those reserves to have to kind of keep a more steady, kind of budget year to year. And in years when you're not seeing big increases in certain areas contributes to the reserve, and in other years where you're seeing, rapidly rising costs, use the reserve. That's for the town, that's for the school committee and the select board and budget committee to all hash out. But I just want to make sure that I'm offering you some tools that I know of, so that you can think about how best to utilize it. But the special ed reserve tool is designed to make things as stable to avoid the wild swings. Because again, it's the most volatile cost center now.
So it's only that one line, of the 65,000 that is the reserve that you're discussing.
Yes, but I think that one of the things that we should test when we speak with Kelly directly, when she comes to the meeting that we have on the 18th, 19th, whatever it is, is to really assess how much is certain in here and how much is she just preparing for, what she anticipates may happen.
Yeah.
And then that may influence how much to put in the reserve and how much to put in the budget. You can also, if you write the article right, you can reserve it, but also be able to access it if you don't reserve it. But at the end of the year, anything you haven't spent, you automatically, can hang on to. You don't just, but you have to ask to spend it. You have to write the article in such a way it says, I don't know what the language is off the top of my head right now, because I'm not thinking about it. But you say, we want to put this money into the reserve and we request the right to spend this money from the reserve, which can sometimes look a little odd. But depending on what happens, you can do one or the other or both, or call it what you want.
That makes sense.
So that's just, again, something to think seriously about. If you'd like any further background on that, how it would be set up, anything like that, I'm happy to provide that at the next meeting. Okay. CTE instruction, again, as Adam noted earlier, we put this cost center in so that we have access to it. $200 is really just a placeholder. We don't know if we can use there, but if we don't put the cost center in the budget, we can't actually take action there. So that's sort of cool. Other instruction. You'll see the co-curricular stipends, this is, go up from 1,100, and you see this is all under the column I have here, request, as opposed to payroll or non-request. Adam is working on developing this program. And I know he's put a lot of thought into it and is asking for a total overall increase of, $15,921 to significantly build up the co-curricular offerings of the school. And I'll just note, while trying to maintain as much neutrality as possible, that's a lot of activity that happens in the school for an additional $15,000 compared to some of these big numbers in, in some of the other lines that you don't see as much impact on as many kids. So this is this 15,000 really can affect everyone in a positive way. Co-curricular stipends jumping up. Adam's intent is to offer more after school programming and other clubs and things like that by offering more stipends for them, and that would increase the the benefits of retirement a bit as well. And then his professional services for co-curricular stays level. And co-curricular other services goes up to 7,000 from 5,000. The field trips, this is really just the transportation cost. We don't expect gas is the same price now as it was a year ago, so we're not gonna increase that for inflation. The stipends for coaches, and this also includes the athletic director, increased from 11,250 to 19,500. So that's an increase of about more than half of your overall cost center increase. So the idea there is to pay the athletic director and the coaches, I believe, more fairly. There exists, like, what was shared with me from Adam was a whole document that has the different steps for the people, and how many years they've been doing it.
Can we
And,
see that?
My understanding is we need to get caught up so that we can keep the people we have and continue to offer programming.
Can we see that on the eighteenth, please?
Certainly.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's also adding a coaching position that includes like that cheering coach.
Do you know roughly what percentage the cheering coach cost is out of that?
I think it was each coaching position, like each, like the first step of the document, it's like 1,700, I think, for a coaching season.
And you said the benefits and the retirement are the same percentage as the other ones?
Yep. And that is because almost, I think 90% of the time your coaches and, stipend people are teachers, so they do it's in addition to their regular jobs. So they fall in main person, so. Game officials pay stays the same, sports supplies goes up $1,000. Sports dues and pay fees stays the same, the rest of the budget, trips, et cetera, stays the same. So the idea here, if I can summarize for Adam, is to, add the cheering with additional coach, pay the coaches more fairly so that we keep them, and increase these stipends for more appropriate activity.
Can you just look at line 98? Wait, is it 98? So you're looking to increase that one by 871, is that correct?
The coach
Increase
retirement?
it by 700, I think is what I think.
Yeah, I'm just not, the numbers are not following along on the line.
Nope, I'll double check my formula in there. That line should be 4.471 of 7,000, and it's not. So that's it, I'll check that.
Okay, thank you.
That wasn't a big line, huh?
I know.
Okay. On to student and staff support. Is this the right pace? You want me to keep going out?
Yeah.
I'm good. Everybody else okay? Yeah.
Guidance counselor salaries on the teacher contracts, so again, I've added 4.5%. Benefits, 2%, health insurance actual plus 8%, retirement, 4.47%. Cash in lieu is not present there. Nurses salary, nurses also on the teacher's contract, benefits, health insurance, retirement, et cetera. Health
Can I
supplies,
just clarify, the guidance counselor salary is a percent here, right? Because she also is paid out of somewhere else.
Yeah.
Out of Cal, thank you.
Unfortunately.
Just wanted to clarify.
I have a 60% FTE in here for that.
Thank you.
So it's 60%, and so the 40% is in the Cal?
Yes.
Thank you.
SAT improvement stipend going from, it was 4,000. We've added 5,000 to that to make it, no, excuse me. Yeah, we've added 5,000 to that.
What is that?
That student assistance
I think
team.
yeah, I think that was supposed to be 5,000.
Just 5, so
It's supposed to be 5
Just five.
total.
So adding
Increase.
I will reduce that to, I'll remove
For a
it
total
as
of-
double entry, it's entered in both
Ready.
payroll and in your request.
Yeah.
So we can take 4,000 out of that.
Okay, and then can we go back to line 112?
Yep.
Nursing shared,
You have,
That is that we have, of the 5 schools that each have a nurse, there is one nurse that is the head nurse that kind of runs the program.
So that's our percentage of the head nurse.
Everybody
Yes.
pays a
Okay.
percentage of that.
She has more training and certification to oversee people who are receiving additional training as well.
Okay, head nurse, so it's shared in all 5 schools.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, health supplies, goes up $50. Where are we? The SAT, I corrected that. Retirement contributions for that stipend. Assessment for curriculum administration. This is your student and staff support section of the AOS budget. And that has gone up significantly. There's a couple things that have happened in there. We increased the percentage that the assistant superintendent was in that cost center. And it also included her full raise. We put it all in this cost center. We just sort of like said, this is assistant superintendent is actually working mostly in student and staff support on curriculum. We also added the AOS technology director. So that's where you're seeing that, those costs. And that technology director cost was a significant jump in the AOS budget. And this is where it lands on that line. Staff development stipend stays the same, as well as benefits and et cetera associated with it. Staff development for the school's budget for staff development is staying the same, 5,500. Shared staff development, that which is organized by the assistant superintendent, goes up $1,046 to $4,410.72. So there's a there's an increase there. Staff development, travel miles stays the same. Library and tech salary goes up a little bit, and the benefits and follow, and health insurance follows the same formula there.
That's on the CBA, right?
Nope, libraries and support staff wage. and
Support staff,
benefits.
okay, thank you.
Library professional services goes up $9. Library supplies is flatline, books and periodicals flatlines, and it stays the same. Dues and fees stays the same. Technology ed tech salary, that was a readjustment that was made for that position. So that goes up quite a bit. And then benefits follow, health insurance is actual. And you'll notice that in line 136 AOS IT support is now gone because we're not doing that sort of shared cost of contracted AOS IT support. Computer hardware stays the same at 2,000. Software goes up $15. Online subscriptions for schools went from 16,240 to 17,705. Online subscription shared jumped up from 45,659 to 10,061.
Why?
And these are actuals based on the software that we're actually using. So this is a lot of different tools that are being shared broadly. And
So this is an AOS share 5 schools.
Shared, yes, and we have that breakdown we can bring to the meeting on the 18th.
Thanks, I'd like to see that.
Yep.
computer supplies, pretty much, stays the same. Computer hardware purchases goes down a couple $1,000 or $1,375 down to 9941. And this is all at the request of the technology. Computer software purchases, 144. Testing materials for the school. We see a $2,500 increase in that. And this is what Adam and I were talking about at about 4:30. I'm not sure I put that 2,500 on the right line, but it's an increase for the cost of, what is that thing called?
Second step, that's our KE, like social emotional curriculum, that is delivered to guidance classes. So there's an online component, and there's some materials that go along with that. They gave us a deal last year, basically, when we kind of started it up, it was like 500, but then because you're a school less than 100 kids or greater than 100 kids, then it goes from like 500 to 2,500 for that.
So that'll move to line 139.
That sheet 139.
Yes.
That was the last thing we did. We said, let's just stick it there and fix it. All right. Testing materials shared went down $248, and the shared wellness committee stayed the same at $575. So overall, we see a jump in student and staff support of $83,353. Or, 29%. So there's a significant, this cost center is seeing a significant increase. And you can see it both in the, a big piece of that, or 21,000 of it is in that AOS cost of that IT director, et cetera. And then other pieces broken, guidance counselor, we have some increased costs there. I think part of that was the Tesser. And I think so. And then the recalculation that was done by the school committee on the ed tech, for the technology position. That's where the cost is coming from. So, really, most of it's coming from technology.
Can you tell me where the other references, especially?
It's in Cal's.
Oh, it's in Cal.
Mhm.
So where's Cal?
Cal, you get on a separate page because it's not part of your school budget. You would have the authority over it.
Thank you.
Believe it or not. You do, which don't.
All right,
You approve your share.
okay. Thanks. I wasn't seeing it and that would explain why.
Yeah.
I'm all set. If anybody sees anything I got wrong, I'm delighted to point it out, because I'm trying to clean this up as much as possible. Okay, school board liability insurance, based on the actual received this year with what we projected 3% increase, that's 3,300. School board advertising flatlined at 300.
What is that?
The advertise for
New employees, anything like that. It's actually you are
Oh,
hiring people, so the advertising comes out of your lines,
Stuff like
not the
that.
school.
The next couple lines, dues and fees and school board conferences are all level funded, as are the auditor services level funded from last year. They increased it last year, so hopefully it stay the same. School board legal fees, we've left at we gave it a little bit more last year, and we're just leaving that level funded. And then the assessment for the administration for the superintendent's office goes up 54,5682. For the business office, goes up 72,9369. The semester, lost semester funding in there. And then so system administration goes up $13,150 or 11%. School administration, what I've done here for the principal salary is to just, and this is the same, saying this in every single school and at the AOS board. What I've done is I've looked at the wage increases over the last 2 years in the state of Maine and applied that to this line, so that the principal salary we had 2 years ago maintains the same level as all wages in the state of Maine over the last 24 months. That shows a big increase here of 9%. But you award that based on performance, based on everything you choose to do or not. This isn't money I'm handing to your principal, this is money I'm handing to you. Through this budget, should you pass it as it is. But I'm doing this in every school budget based on guidance I received from the Department of Labor on how to keep things exactly at the same place in the market they were 2 years ago. So that's just a data point for you to follow when you decide what you want to set that as. And same for the administrative assistant.
Okay.
The AA is the administrative assistant substitute caller overtime. This is 175 hours a year of overtime the administrative assistant receives. That's 1 hour per school day to spend an hour in the morning calling in subs. And that's in the budget, should that be needed. The principal benefits and admin assist benefits are also set at the 2% level, and the health insurances are actuals, and retirement 4.47, and principal professional development level funded. Shared power school stipend goes up just a little bit.
Shared, AOS share, you mean?
Yes.
5 schools?
This Power School InfoSnap software also includes, what we're paying for the, support for the enterprise accounting system. You see, last year, this number was 17,916 because we're making a big investment in that system. Now we're just supporting it, so that number drops down. Principal copier lease, this is, I guess it's not 50-50, but whatever percentage that, 60-40 based on actual use. But principal copier lease is that portion of the, copier lease I showed you in the, teacher line, regular restriction line. And then principal printing for paper. Principal travel stays level funded, $200, and professional development travel, $200. And supplies and postage, that's going up $1,000, using a little bit more postage, and also that we got the, metering machine for the office, so that we kind of run out, buy stamps and get reimbursed and all that, which was kind of for that upgrade. Principal dues and fees stays the same at 700. So school administration sees a 17,882.81 increase, or 7%. Transportation and buses, so hoping that this might be a place we can knock out some money. I went with the same number of buses that we budgeted on this year, for K through 8, and you're using them. So you do need to spend a little bit more money, 149,000 on K through 8. But last year we budgeted on 2 budget buses for 9 through 12, and we're only using 1. I put in 2 because we talked about it last year, and I was told we better be prepared for 2. But we're only using 1. So, you know, depending on what you want to do, this is the first line, you know, you can take out 7,450 here, right? $74,500.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I just don't want to leave you finding out you need another bus next year because of some.
Are we obligated to take the kids to Lincoln?
Not for high school.
Not technically.
Well, then I'd,
Get rid of both.
no,
I don't know if we can do both,
no,
but
but
I
I'd
definitely
keep
want to do
one,
one.
but I'd slash 1 right out of it right now.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
get rid of
take it
one.
right out.
So,
so what'd you say, 70, wait,
70, half that,
70.
74,500. That's what 1 bus run costs, and we're not doing it now, so there's no reason to do it next year.
what's the contract time frame? How much is left on that contract?
Year,
Is
it?
it?
This is it.
This is it.
So it's gonna go up next
So
year.
it's gonna go way up. I mean, I prepare for a 20% increase in this contract going into the next year. I have no idea what they're gonna do, but they've been paying the fuel at prices they committed to 3 years ago.
And wages and,
And wages and everything else, and health
Yep.
insurance, and they haven't, you know, it goes up $200 a year, so for $2,500 a year. It's unsustainable for them to be in business this way, so it's catch-up time next year on that
Yep.
contract, I'm sure. We'll do our best to get the best deal we can, but fair warning, you know? And then Kelly has added in, this, special services secondary transportation, increase from 45 to 120,000.
so it's mandatory.
Yes,
If you need it.
a special services secondary transportation would be an IEP dictated that special transportation was necessary, or it's a placement outside of the district that we're required to get them to.
So we need to hear
So
from
that one we are
Kelly.
obligated to do.
Yeah,
At that amount?
well, no, it's,
Potentially,
that a
depends on how
potential?
many kids there are, depends on where they're going, usually there's a distance.
so on the 18th, I'd like to hear from Kelly if that is based on students that we already know about
Yep.
or that we're expecting.
Just be clear, the 18th, we've set this meeting, but we haven't checked with Kelly.
Right.
Kelly's unavailable, I think we still meet, but Adam and I would meet with her prior, get every detail out of her, and be prepared to
Okay,
do the business.
okay, that's fine.
So we see transportation increasing $85,000 or 25%, but really 75,000 of that is just in that one line of special ed transportation for secondary students. So, moving on to facilities maintenance, we have the shared stipend for chemical and hazardous waste, et cetera, and that's just $303. We have the utility services. Now, what this includes that, was over budget this year, and we kept it over budget going into next year because it's where we pay for all our water tests. And I anticipate we'll be testing the water again next year. The disposal services, we're, for the trash we're throwing out, we're pretty much staying right on that budget, pretty good at 1,800. Adam has added, composting services, of $90 a month, so we've added 1,200 in here, to be able to do the composting. Property insurance, the actual bill we had this year, plus 3% would give us a $14,000 insurance bill. Telephone hasn't been as high. This includes some cell phones, so we have since eliminated. So we're down 3,500 on that. Furniture non-instructional is flatline $1,000, and furniture instructional flatline 3,000. The electricity bill was coming in a little higher than we had budgeted, so we've, kept it at 30,000 is pretty close to our actual.
Can you have, when we come on the 18th, can you have the CMP bills
Month by
1
month,
year ago?
November to November, December to
Yeah,
December,
we pulled that whole folder and there it is.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
because we're only 2 months in.
Yeah.
With them, right? With
And the
lights,
lighting was just finished in December. So. not
Right,
the
even
gym, the
full-
rest of
yeah.
it was already.
I just would like to
Yes.
see how it's trending, please.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
The overall electricity
Correct.
costs,
Say the waste of money.
Probably. We did a 30-month deal, July 2023, so that covers us 2 fiscal years. We will eventually, we'll be off that deal soon, pretty much after this budget season. If you remember, we switched to the Shell provider and locked in at like 13.6 cents, really good deal. But I'm hoping that we're experiencing the new CMP rates that came out last month, kind of low. I'm hoping that at the end of this budget season, I'm gonna try to get another extension on our deal at a low rate, so we can look at that together, maybe in April, and see if we can buy into a longer term contract that locks us in an even better, maybe even a better rate. Heating fuel, again, it was coming in high, so so based on our actuals for the last winter, and we put it at 50,000 instead of 44,500. Miscellaneous building and utility fees, we've left that at 2750. Custodian salary, you'll see 2 numbers here. 89,440 is what we're paying now, plus under the guidance that we have. An additional 12,480 has been requested by Adam to get the positions. We haven't been able to fill this one position. And we have another person that's been, kind of working here for a significant length of time. And Adam's requesting that we adjust the facilities lines to be prepared to continue to be able to operate. And so that's partially at 12,480 is a principal request to try to beef up our capacity there. But if you look, he's also cut some of the summer custodian pay, so it isn't a full 12,480 increase because he's not replacing the 4,580. So it comes in more like a just under about $8,000 increase he's asking to be added to those 2 lines or to those 2 positions. Again, to help keep them staffed. Custodian health insurance is an actual. You'll see custodian benefits here. This does not follow the 2% to 10% for a non-association person because of the way the taxes are done differently with Social Security, et cetera. Custodian health insurance actual, so line 194 custodian supplies, we've just flatlined that at 10,500. Building maintenance services. These have been coming in higher than we budgeted. The 38.5 that we had for the year prior. Just seems that we have had a handful of unexpected events that have required a lot of electrical services, a lot of other people coming in and working in the building that we just feel like we just need that 12,000 for that budget to be able to say we have enough there to actually cover what's happening. It's just random things, but it adds up. And when we ran trial balances on that, it just proved that, the actual number this year was more than 90,000, that included the efficiency main one. But we brought it up to 50 because of other things we saw.
That included the full price of the efficiency made, or just our share, of it?
90,
The 90, okay.
yeah. But, it doesn't take much. I mean, we learned the hard way that, with the steamer, that we did not anticipate buying a $27,000 steamer would cost $15,000 to install, And, the work on the panel to get the electrical right and everything. There's just these costs from the trades are really high. And they happen, and we can't just sort of, not prepare for them in one. Grounds and maintenance services, we keep that level at 4,300. Contracted mowing, we have a contract and it goes to 4,500 this year. And contracted snow plowing, we have a contract in place now for that at 4,000. Shared safety committee remains level funded at 2,500. And then the capital renewal and renovation, I have in my number here 35,000 that I put in, and that is specifically for the civil engineering work that you would do next fiscal year to prepare to go out to bid with something with work to be done for your parking traffic situation. That number is a number that I discussed at length with Mark Hager, who's doing the same work right now, and had been paying just under that, like 31. But that was like, he locked into that in FY 23. The year used to be 18 months later, the year locked into something, so I went with 35. And again, you don't have to spend it all, you can put it towards the project or something, but I wanna make sure you're able to do that work as you wish. And then the 69,700 is on that slide in front of you, how that's calculated. Those are things that Adam's, put together, things he wants to see happen in the building. All told, that will increase your facilities budget by $80,228 or 23%. A 46 of that is just in that one capital renewal renovation line, and 35 of that is just your civil engineering. So you can see how it all kind of comes together there.
Adam, can you email this, either the whole slideshow to us, or at least this one, so that we have that breakdown? Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I can write it, but it would just be faster.
And then, the school lunch program, what's been happening here is that we put in a certain amount, kind of stays there for a few years, and the practice has always been the auditor makes it all right in the end. But I went through and did a sort of multi-year review at the end of last year, and most of all the 5 schools, most of them were operating like everything was working well. But Noble Borough, we were expending 20,000 more than we were budgeting here, to cover the, food service. So I've increased that by 20,000 to make sure you have enough, so that, because otherwise it's just gonna come right out of your fund balance forward, and in a lean year, it might not be there at all. And, we're not allowed to let that cost center go into red. So that's just a, reality. But it adds up to a $608,084.92 increase, or 13%. We could take the 4,000 out of that I miscalculated on the, that one stipend, and the 74,500 to bring that down by 78,500. And, so that'll help a little bit, but that's only, you're still gonna have a $530,000 increase over last year. And I think the best line of attack is sitting down with Kelly first and really getting a handle on special ed numbers. And seeing if there's anything we can find there. And, I don't know if there is or isn't, but that's the first look. And then I'll do my best in the next couple of weeks, between now and the 18th, to identify anything else that I can offer up, because, I have no interest in seeing anybody go up too high.
In your opinion, would it be detrimental on that food service line, the last one, 202? I hear what you said, but what about putting that in at 14 instead of 20?
Well,
Instead
you
of
needed-
10?
So, for example, the reason you have 160,000 fund balance forward this year, not 190,
Is because of that
is
line?
because of that.
Okay.
And, it keep happening to the point where suddenly you don't have fund balance forward. And so, you know, it's a question of, it comes down to how tight you want to get, and when you have all these things are your dashboard, you have reserves that you can save some money up for, and they will help you stay more level funded. You have, you know, just paying the things you know are gonna cost, instead of shorting them and hoping that you don't incur them. But it's, you know, I think that I would not advise you to not have the money that we know you're gonna spend. You know, and I would advise you to have a little in savings, it's just like everybody else, you know, it's just like your own. Everybody's household, you don't wanna have it so tight that if something happens, things go bad. But the tools available of the reserves and the ability to go through here to really take a disciplined approach to it are, you know, sort of first line of fact. That bus, I was eager to get to that bus because that's something I knew I could offer up, but I don't have anything else like that in here, otherwise I would not put it in. And I only put the bus in because we talked about it last year and we did it to stay in place.
So is there a negative impact to our contract? I mean, we're contracted with for 4 buses, are we not? Like, are we being
The
penalized?
district contract.
Oh,
So the right number of buses are running somewhere across all of our area. They don't necessarily run by town line. They do for the elementary, but not necessarily the high school, so.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we weren't incurring
We're
any.
not getting the bills.
Could I ask a question, please? I wondered if that PowerPoint that Adam put together, if you could put it on a link, maybe on the web page or something, so people can look at that.
Maybe we'll do that after we finalize. That's what we did last year, is we brought that to town meeting.
The Points that you put together, I thought people should see that side of it as well.
I have a question, only because I've never sat through this before. I know there were 2 students currently who are not enrolled in high school for their homeschooling. Is there a contingency in there for when they go back to school next year?
There's a contingency for 2, we don't know who they are. We don't anticipate, there's a lot of homeschool
Yeah.
students in the districts. And we just know that it's a likelihood somebody's gonna wanna go to school.
Right.
You know, so we budget 2 per town, we ask to budget 2 per town.
Okay.
When things get tight, I've seen that get cut, that's unfortunate because it usually comes back to haunt us, but there's enough money in there for 2.
Okay.
There isn't money for 2 homeschool students to choose to go back to school and another 2 students to move to Noblesboro. There's only a contingency for 2. Beyond that, you know, this is where you don't want to budget too tight in everything, because things could happen.
So I know those 2 that aren't going now,
Mhm.
going back next year.
If, you know, I don't know, we do our best to check and find out who's going where. We already know they're coming, you might want to budget on them for.
So let's wait and check in on that. I don't want to get into talking about specific students in a public meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Angela?
Yes.
I have a little request for information. Would you like me to do it now or offline after you adjourn?
Is it information from the board or from,
So
um,
I can go, I can wait.
could you,
Related to when we get together for negotiation. Just numbers.
okay, yeah, could you email,
Okay.
and maybe CC the negotiation
Sure.
members? Thanks.
I bet Candy has it ready. Ready for you.
Does anybody? Feeling a little
Digest
overwhelmed.
and Come back to it,
No.
the bigger amount of time to play with numbers.
Yeah, does anybody have anything that you see that right off the bat you want to talk about some more and or suggest something?
Yeah, so we went on a 4% or 4.5 on the teachers, but a 9 on the principal. Why would we not just hold the 4 across the board?
In my mind, it's because when you contract with the teachers, you contract for periods of years. And
But we will, not to interrupt you, we will contract with the principal to increase every year, correct?
no,
So we will flatline.
you make a choice every single year.
Right, but you will come with an increase every single year.
Me?
Yes,
Generally, what I do is I bring in the cost of living increase and say that's the cost of, some years that's,
but this year wasn't 9%.
last 2 years combined, 9%, or 13%, and we did 5 last year. So I did that because I was reading all about how much wages have increased in the state of Maine. And what I was, the way I was trained as a school business manager was for the non-association people, you follow the cost of living. And last year, we just put 5% in because we didn't think we could keep up with inflation. Because it was all over the place, the news, and it was up at 12% or something, so we put it in 5. Things stabilized, the state released data. I called the Department of Labor and said, okay, so we had a lot of people, we set salaries 2 years ago, what would they be for 24 months? And they said, well, that's a 12.89% increase. And when I put it in here, again, I don't say this is how much you should pay people, but I'm doing 2 things. One, giving you enough money so that you can choose, and I don't know anything about principals' performance in relation to their jobs, nothing, not my area that I work in this area. There are some schools that might want all of that because they think they have a principal they want to make a big investment in. There are some schools that may be at the opposite end of that, and they're trying to do some performance management. I don't enter into that, complete neutral party. So I tell everybody, I'm gonna give you what the state data says I should give you, so you can do whatever you need to. The other thing that's a reality in a lot of these jobs these days is there's rapid turnover and there's a labor shortage. It's very difficult to get administrators, principals, teachers, custodians, everything. So I try to give the school committees enough money so that they don't end up shorthanded when the time comes. It's up to you to spend it. All I'm doing is putting it in your budget.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. And there are years, just to go back to the teachers, because I believe in absolute equity between the administrators and the teachers. I would never advocate that the administrators kept spinning wildly ahead of the teachers, but because they're on 2 different systems. And once a cost of living increases or generally gets tied to cost of living increases, historically, that's usually been below the teachers' contracts. And especially in the central office, hourly employees kind of stall out and don't keep pace at all. And so what I'm trying to just put all that up, open cards up on the table, let you guys see that there's all these different classes of employees that get treated differently. And I'm trying to give you the tools to provide as much equity as you choose to, as you decide what to do with the money that you appropriated.
Any other questions before we,
Yeah, I have
Jen?
one question. How many students are anticipated, to the best of your knowledge, for the special education program now that they'll be perhaps coming into either here or elsewhere?
We'll ask Kelly on the 18th. She has all of the numbers.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Peter. Appreciate it. We'll have some time to think and be in the office on the 18th.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Is that public? That means when the
It's a board meeting, so it is public. Yes,
time would that start?
2 o'clock, they said.
Yep.
Thank you.
New business, we've nothing there, so policies first read. So in tonight's packet.
Yes. So these, Joan,
Oh,
under motion.
you gotta do motion, sorry. Gotta do motion.
I heard Matt, right?
Matt, and a second? Jen? Okay, discussion.
Okay, so these policies tonight, continuing the Is, we're continuing through our required policies, updating them to make sure they're current within 2020 or forward. As you know, with the first reads, you have a month to look at them in here or look at them in the shared drive and submit comments, suggestions, questions, before they get finalized next month. They are the sample policies from MSMA with what's generally approved, but that's for your review. The policy D, DKC, expense authorization and reimbursement. That is a policy that is not necessarily required by the Maine legislature, but is required by the federal government for Title I funding. So we're bringing that in. We found a sample one that will make us compliant with the federal policies on that. And wellness, as I said earlier, which is also being brought into first read, is the same thing. Our nutrition review just said we needed to have that updated more recently than it had been. So bringing that back to the wellness committee and the boards for updates and approval.
Where is it?
Over the next month. It should be in there. If it's not, it's in the drive and I can get it to you. Right there.
JLBA? Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
the wrong code is on the top as a DA. This is. I'm going to send you a different policy. This is not the one you should,
Okay,
it should have color on it.
all right, I'm gonna put a nice big old line through that
Thank
one
you.
so that I don't read it.
Being a note.
So that was the 5 pages of JLDA -R.
Mhm.
Thank you. Can you, rather than just referring to the drive, can you actually send a like PDF attachment in an email so that everybody can access it? Thanks. Okay. Any questions on that first read set? All in favor? Okay, 4-0. Thank you. Can I have a motion for second read approval on the policies brought forth last month?
I'll make a motion.
Read, and a second?
Second.
Matt, and discussion. Shockingly, I have some.
And then drive as well. That is fine. That's a good thing, actually. I'm just bringing up any of the electronic changes that were suggested as well. This one is being nice to me. Okay, so there are no submissions, changes submitted electronically, so it's
Okay.
just what you have in your.
So GCSA-R, the
Sure.
employee computer and internet rules.
Mhm.
First of all, I thought we did this recently. Are we getting it back up to law?
Yes.
Okay. So my suggestion would be option 2, or for D, personal use, do option 2. Does anybody disagree or have comment on that? No, okay, so I got nothing for you. Okay.
That's the general consensus,
Yeah.
then option 2.
And then in NEPN/NSBA code CGI.
CGI, yep. All you have to do is say the GCI.
My brain is swimming at this point.
It's okay.
On page, actually, I guess. I'm sorry,
Different code. Yep.
GCOA, page 1, after E.
Yep.
Is it still required to have the year of reference in there? It was quite a while ago.
That's still the sample policy. and I think
Okay.
it shows that we've been compliant since then.
Okay.
So I would leave it.
Okay,
Yeah.
well then that goes for the same on
Yeah.
GCOC.
Yes.
It was such a long time ago.
I
I
know.
was curious, and that's it.
Great.
That from me, that's not necessarily it. Does anybody else have?
And that's
No. Yeah, busy.
Okay, all in favor? 4-0.
And I'm gonna explain this last one too.
Oh, yeah, where is, can I have a motion for second read of JFABD and JFABD-R?
I'll make that.
Jen.
And they're here at the back of your policy packet,
Which policy packet?
in your paper packet tonight there.
Tonight.
Yep.
Can I have a second? Do I have a second? Sorry. Matt? Okay,
So these I'm fast tracking through, not doing first read, sending straight to second read. Because we had McKinney-Vento review as well. McKinney-Vento is the federal law that applies to homeless students and their right to education. Our policies are exactly the same as this, except for one change the federal government made last year. And so in order for our review to be complete, we need to submit these, and this is more time sensitive than the wellness review. So the only change that happened is that students awaiting a foster placement are no longer eligible under McKinney-Vento. They're now eligible under DHS and foster placement instead. So they switched it from one category to another, and I need you to reapprove these so I can take out those 4 words, please.
okay,
Just make a motion to do that?
we just did.
Yeah, I need that.
All in favor for the proposed changes? So it's 4-0.
Thank you.
And meeting adjourned at 7:43.
Thank you all.
Thank you.